You know, Christ came to reign in our hearts for eternity. That's what his goal was, and he wants to live in us, and he wants to save us, and that changes things, and it's a blessing. And someone who's discovered the blessing of letting Christ rule in her heart is London Sanders. And London, I've asked London to come share her story with us because it's really a Christmas story. London, you've started recently coming back to UVCC, but there was a little hiatus in there, and you actually started coming a couple years ago. What initially drew you here to UVCC?
Jim Evans, which is my daughter's grandfather, initially invited my daughter's dad, myself, and our baby girl in Easter of 2009.
All right. Did that experience coming a couple years ago, was it meaningful to you? Did it change much in your life?
I was very much a Sunday Christian. I came to church on Sundays, and it felt great. But come Monday, I was back to the same sinful life. I lived with a man that I had a child with that I wasn't married to. I used language that no one should use. And in a sense, I felt convicted for that. And out of guilt, I chose to walk away from God instead of walk away from that relationship and come to God.
Okay. And then fast forward a couple years, really just to maybe 2 or 3 months ago, when you started coming back to UVCC, what drew you back after that time when you stopped coming?
Well, since I had stopped coming to church, my life had been far from great. But in a sense, I had convinced myself that I had things under control. But to fast forward to now, in mid-August, I was hospitalized for viral meningitis, and I was told that I would have not made it 24 more hours at home. And so initially, I gave the glory to God that He pulled me through that. But while I was hospitalized, I was on a really, really strong narcotic every 2 hours through an IV that I became addicted to. And I had never done any kind of drugs or any kind of pills, and so that was very, very new to me. And when I was released from the hospital, I was so depressed, and my life had zero purpose, and I didn't go in feeling like that. And so I was very, very angry with God that He would spare me of something just to what I thought was impose this harm on me that I had a hard time understanding and accepting.
Okay, so you were feeling almost punished by God, but yet you knew that He was the answer, and so you decided to come back to church. You committed to coming on a particular Sunday, but you had a rough night before that.
I did. It was actually 3 months ago today, but September 1st was the first weekend that I was out of the hospital, and I hadn't really processed how I was going to fight this addiction and depression and hopelessness. But I wanted to go out that night. It was a Saturday night, and I had convinced myself that I was going to go out, and I was going to get drunk until I forgot what was going on. And I had already promised myself I needed to be here Sunday. So I went out, and I did just that. I was belligerently drunk. I went home that night, and I remember through all my drunken state just praying to God to just take me out of this world. I didn't want to live like this. How dare Him, put me through this, bring me through something just to punish me. And I woke up Sunday morning, and I was so hungover. I was so sick. I had a migraine, and I laid there, and it went back and forth in my head. Can I even get out of bed to go to church? But I drug myself up, and I took off driving, and I had to stop on I-75 twice and throw up on the side of the highway. And I made it to church, and I came in, and I sat down, and I just instantly felt God's grace, and He took that illness from me instantly.
All right, and you shared that you accepted Christ that morning, and things have been different since. Tell us about that.
Things are very different. My life is nothing the same, but a common misconception I think a lot of people have, and I had myself, was I thought when I came to Christ in brokenness that things would just instantly be perfect, and they were so far from that. I think things really got worse before they got better, and I knew that was God testing me and my faithfulness to Him, because so many times I came to Him in brokenness, and I turned on Him when I did see hope. But I read my Bible, and I read His amazing promise, and I'm doing an 8-week with Paula Kuhn, and she's so amazing, and it just gives me so much hope that I wouldn't have otherwise, and things aren't perfect, but they're great.
And there's hope now. And yet, one of the things that you shared with me that really struck me, you said you knew of God before, but you didn't know God. Well, tell us about that.
I knew who God was, and I knew what He expected of us. And I saw Him do these amazing things in other people's lives, but I never felt Him near to me, and that's because I never opened my heart to Him, and I never had a personal relationship with Him.
All right, and now the future looks bright. Not perfect, but bright, doesn't it?
It does.
That's really the story of Christmas. God's light coming into our hearts and changing us from the inside out and making us new. now you have a hope, but you also have a purpose, right? You really feel like God is going to use you in other people's lives now.
I do. I just really feel like God put me where he put me on rock bottom, and I tell people all the time that rock bottom became the foundation that I built my life, and I just want to encourage people that are just barely hanging on, just hold on.
Yeah, and that's her life song. She's going to sing to share what God has done in her life, and we're going to continue to worship. But as we do that, would you just tell London how much we appreciate her sharing her story?